and welcome to the newspaper review here on TAP TV. We are at the streets of Port Harcourt and it just rained, but sunshine is out now. All right, this is where we get to discuss with members of the street to get to see their reactions as regard different headlines making rounds on these papers. Well, before we discuss with members on the street, we will first look into the newspapers. And yes, you can also be a part of this show. Please subscribe to our channel. If you are yet to subscribe, turn on your notification button and connect with us across all our social media platforms. And yes, if you have anything to add to what has been discussed here, please engage with us in the comment section. Of course, we would like to hear from you. Yes, and the Nation's newspaper, we could see as headline says, Rivers crisis, Worgu Abe defends Wike integrity. Sub-story under that reads, 5 commissioners quit ESCO. This is found on page 4. Emefiele charged with unlawful printing of new Naira notes. Interesting. Details of this story is found on page 3. Delta opens IDP camp for Okwama returnees. Details is found on page 28. Killings, Senate 6 police, military presence in Enugu community. Details is found on page 28. Tinubu inaugurates 3 gas facilities in Imo, Delta. Details is found on page 7. Marginal 0.49% rise in inflation rate raises hope. Sub-story under that reads, experts predict decrease as reform gains take root. Details is found on page 4. And at the main story here, you can see it says, government's 48,000 Naira offer breaks up new minimum wage talks. Details is found on page 2. Monarch gets federal government's commitment on Ogoni cleanup. Details of this story is found on page 4. Wike to begin CBT in November, WASSCE. Details is found on page 3. And lastly says, NUC ready with bodies of 16 federal varsities. Details of this story is found on page 3, and that's all be taken on the Nation's newspaper. And moving on the New Telegraph newspaper, we could see as headline says, pension, value of foreign assets rise by 118 billion naira as total funds dropped by 90 billion naira in March. Atiku faults federal government's plan to inject 20 trillion naira pension funds into economy. Details is found on page 7. Nigeria's inflation rate rises to 33.69% as food price surges. Details is found on page 2. Rep to quiz Ribadu over faulty presidential air fleet. Details of this story is found on page 2 and 7 of the New Telegraph newspaper. How Buba convinced Senate to accept cybersecurity levy. Sub-story under that reads, 5 pro-Wike commissioners quit Fubara's cabinet. Details is found on page 2 and 10. NUC, federal government working on reconstituting varsities governing councils. Details is found on page 4. The main story on the New Telegraph says, minimum wage negotiation. Labour walks out, says federal government's proposed 48,000 naira mockery. Insult to workers' dignity. Urges government to consider hardship. Nigeria's socio-economic realities. Substory again under that reads, federal government raked in 318.5 billion naira in first quarters, says Accountant General. Details of this interesting story is found on page 3 and 5 of the New Telegraph newspaper. Tinubu's policies causing unintended pains for Nigerians, says Kuka. This is found on page 3. And lastly says governors have killed local governments in Nigeria, says Senate. This is found on page 2 and 4. And that's all be taken on the New Telegraph newspaper. And lastly, on the dailies for today, we'll be looking at the Punch newspaper here. The headline says, Tinubu to tackle power outages with 2 gas plants. The details of this story is found on page 20. Imported food prices rise as inflation hits 33.6%, says NBS. Details is found on page 19. Western democracy model not working for Nigeria, Obasanjo insists. Details is found on page 12. Rivers waives all 5 pro-Wike's commissioners' resignation. Details is found on page 11. The main story on the Punch says, minimum wage, Labour dumps negotiation over federal government's 48,000 naira proposal. Substory under that reads, negotiation has broken down. 48,000 naira amount to wage reduction, says unions. Details is found on page 2. Sweden to return 39 Benin artifacts. Details is found on page 7. Biden, world leaders condemn shooting of Slovak Prime Minister. Details is found on page 10. The bottom stories say, Amechi destroyed Rivers APC to stop my governorship ambition, says Abe. Details is found on page 12. 3 cops bag life jail for killing man in Anambra. This is found on page 4 and 5. And lastly says, Emefiele implemented Naira swap without Buhari's approval, says EFCC. This is found on page 7, and that's all be taken on the Punch newspaper. Now let's get to see the reactions of people on the streets. Let's get to hear what they have to say as we got these headlines on the paper. Stay tuned. Right, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Welcome. It's good to have you here.
Yes, sir.
Yes. On the nations, let's talk about Rivers politics. On the nations, the story says Rivers crisis. Worgu Abe defends Wike's integrity. What's your take on that?
They are defending Wike and they are defending, Magnus Abe, whom everybody believes he is a good man.
He stands for justice.
Yes, stands for justice. He has just put himself at the tight corner in the lives of Rivers people. I have seen that he is pursuing his self-interest, not Rivers' interest. Yes, because having seen what is happening now, and he did not stand for justice, which means he had been wearing the cloak of justice, whereas inside he is injustice. So nobody takes him serious any longer for supporting Wike. That of Olakan Worgu, people know him that he's not a serious politician.
We've known how he's been.
Yeah, yes, before now. So, but Magnus Abe, joining himself with Wike, he has just poured mud on his integrity and who he is. Now, what value we place on him had been removed from him. Yes, he had not only reduced, had been eradicated, had washed off. People look at him that he is the lives of Wike. He had wanted to make the resources of the state dry, just like Wike did. Don't you see what Fubara is saying?
That kept debt.
Yes, that Wike kept debt. So a man like Abe supporting such action Wike took in the past, which means all of them have been looting state funds.
But what do you think is their reason for supporting Wike even at this time?
Yes, because they thought that election will not be free and fair. They will still rig it.
Okay, so this now boils down to our electoral system.
Yes, that's why I say that Nigeria's electoral system is not credible, it's not fair. Of course, you and I, pressmen, you are the people that you are the first estate of the realm. So you know what happened in 2023 election. Exactly. That it was not fair. So in short, people's vote were not counted. Up till now, people are still lamenting that they voted, and INEC and people that had power collected the vote and counted for others.
Okay.
Who didn't win the election.
All right, now let's look into the root cause of this, seeing how the issue between Governor Fubara and Minister Wike. What do you think is the real cause of all this issue, aside finance? Because money is not the main problem. Should we say it is power? Maybe wanting to rule there and rule here, or not Fubara not wanting to take orders from his godfather? Remember that Wike is his political godfather.
Yes. The main reason that is causing this problem is that Wike had wanted a third tenure in the name of Fubara.
Okay, indirectly.
Indirectly. He would have been running the state, Fubara would have been answering the name. Just to see the massive people that resigned from his cabinet. These are the people Wike nominated to be commissioners. Yes, he's loyalist. He appointed the leadership of the state assembly. He appointed the 9 commissioners. They resigned before they resigned again. These are the things that point to the fact that you want to be controlling the state in the name of another person, prestige, called Fubara. But I'm very, very happy that people of the state are going behind Fubara, knowing that this is a sincere man. Yes, you know what he wanted, and he went for it. And he stood his ground. As soon as he mentioned that he would probe Wike, I think Wike has kept quiet. A parrot couldn't talk again, because we were waiting to hear when he would say "hoo" as he used to shout, and nobody heard him again.
Okay, now see Governor Fubara's political governance from when he emerged as governor till now. If you want to rate him from a scale of 1 to 10, like how many would you rate him, his governance?
Let's say governance has been very, very excellent. He has scored up to 90%. Okay. You know why? He is implementing people's policies, not his own self-policy.
So he's after the people?
Yes, he's after the people. Don't you see what he said? As at yesterday, the State Executive Council has approved the second phase of Trans-Calabar Road. He went the other day with Governor of Abia State, His Excellency Governor Alex Otti, and commissioned Old Bori Road, Ogale Road. Yes, projects have now been spread across the 23 local government councils, not only Obiakpo and Faga only, because people who came from the rural area also voted for him as governor. Exactly. So he's touching their lives. Look at the empowerment scheme in terms of back of industry loan is granting to people, is making sure that the health gets to the people. Education gets to the people. So he's doing well. So, but he should look at mass unemployment that is driving this, because this will give way for crime.
Exactly.
Do you understand me? If he doesn't look at that, it will worry him in the future. And at the end of the day, the politician will end up using them and they will dump them. So you should be very careful about that. You should allow industries to thrive up. And you should create an enabling environment so that people can now be employed. And when people are employed, these are people that will vote for him. So that is what I want to say.
All right, thank you very much. All right, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome. Hope the rain didn't affect you.
A bit, a little.
Okay.
Indeed.
Okay, now let's get to business. On the Punch newspaper, there's a headline that says minimum wage. Labour dumps negotiation over federal government's 48,000 naira proposal as against the 615,000 naira that Labour Congress proposed. The federal government is saying they can only pay 48,000 naira for government parastatals, while the private sector will be paying 54,000 naira. What's your take on that? Labour sees this as an insult to them.
Yeah,
so what's your take on that?
Obviously, it is an insult. Because if government are actually considering the analysis that was given to them by Labour Congress, the breakdown. Now, with your conscience, after seeing those breakdown, if I was in position of power, assuming they just made this demand without having to break it down, but they gave us analysis. This is like the first time we are seeing it. So just like I said, with your conscience, after seeing all that, you're still bringing it down to 48. It's 48, half of 165.
Exactly. It doesn't even come close at any point.
Like, okay, let's say they took out 65 and gave them 100. It would have still been
around the 100.
I'm telling you, let it just be around the 100 range. So at this point, I feel that there is no regard for the Nigerian Labour Congress, like the workforce of the nation. Now, this is the strength of the nation. This is where our incomes have been generated, and you're telling us that you're giving them 48,000. Now this is like taking us back to the old minimum wage of how much? 30,000. So what's the difference from just 18,000 naira? The difference that an Agbero will make on the street in just a day, and this is somebody that works for a whole month and earns extra 18,000. No, it's really not fair, because it looks as if we are headed nowhere in terms of the workforce in this country.
How about considering how the economy is? Let's consider that also.
Okay, now having to consider the economy is one-sided. Now the truth is there's money in Nigeria, regardless of all this.
Because that is not in circulation.
Now
and it's not in proper use.
It's not in proper use. That is the problem. It's not that we don't have money in this country. There is money, but the cash flow. Now, if we want to make everything be at equilibrium, let's cut down on our senators first. I'm not trying to point fingers now. Let's cut down on our senators. Let's cut down on this basic things that are attached to the salaries of other top agencies. Let's bring it down, zop out that money and get to pay these other ones that are demanding. Okay, why are other unions not crying about this? Why are senators not crying? Not crying.
And they're not even supporting the motion.
They will not support the this particular motion, because at the end of the day, it feels like they are taking from them to give out.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, this is where we draw our curtains for today. You've heard everything that has been discussed here. You've seen the reactions of the members of the streets of Port Harcourt. Well, you out there can also be a part of this show. Drop your comments in the comment section, because we'd like to hear your thoughts and reactions as you get these headlines on the papers. Subscribe to our channel if you're yet to subscribe, and do not forget to turn on your notification button. My name is Obed Jerry, your host for today, and this has been the newspaper review here on TAP TV. See you next time.